ass off, bro! I have the high ground!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
On the Tribe of Nerds. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. We are back for another postseason interview for Heroes versus Villains. And of course, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Neo Wayne. Welcome, Ryan.
There's a few more nicknames added to that list after this season. It's Ryan Neo, Chatterbox, Beowulf, Parian, Wayne. I got in quite a few. Parian was a new one. Pariah and my name put together, Parian, because boy was I one near the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it though, because you also like you did have like quite the journey and like stark difference from what your first season was, where you were right off the bat just a pariah, and then this time you actually got an alliance going. So, but we'll get into that. So let's start with kind of just like the pregame, getting cast, and like what were your thoughts upon getting contacted for this season?
So, I was worried about ever doing an org again because I did not like being targeted so much. I joke about having 26 votes against me. And, it is somewhat of a badge of honor because I'm like, yeah, Christian Hibicki, what's up? What, 17 votes, 19 votes, chump change.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, I played that game and I didn't play fully as me. I lied about who I was, not only profession-wise, but also, because I was targeted, trying to lower my threat equity, kind of not being a buffoon, but like definitely not a smart version of myself. Even I wouldn't say playing badly, but sacrificing making moves in the games to kind of lower my threat level.
Mhm.
Because like there are a few things where I've been like, oh, I could have totally done this. But, when you contacted me and it was Heroes versus Villains, I didn't want to say no to the very first time I'm invited to do something else. And also, Heroes versus Villains, it's an iconic season. I started watching Survivor seriously around that time.
Oh
Like
wow.
my first full season was Samoa. And so when Heroes versus Villains came on, I'm like, this is like the greatest season ever. Um, and so I couldn't say no to that. And roughly around the same time, was Pirate Sarah was putting a video together, Vanquish alumni. And I kind of was asking her, I was like, were you contacted too? I was like, yeah. And then I was like, Alliance, maybe? And yeah. And so I kind of knew her from the chats and whatnot. We were both in VIP. We were both watching Candyland and commenting.
Mhm.
And so it kind of started from there. And then the cast list came out, and the only person I really knew or I had any interaction with was Michael, who was on the hero tribe. And then I saw I was on the villain tribe, and I was like, what? Because for me, it was debatable which direction I was going to be cast in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
do you have
So
insight on that?
it was because like your video when you sent it and like you said more screen time, I'm like, I feel like that's what a villain would say, is they want as much screen time as possible. And I just thought like, I don't know, I feel like you, because you had that journey in Fans versus Favorites 3 to where you were always a target and just like people wanted to get rid of you. I don't know, I just saw that as kind of fitting more on the villains tribe. I know like sometimes that underdog status can definitely get you on the heroes instead, but
Yeah, I know. I mean, I got eliminated dressed as Captain America. When I was talking to Joe, I was like, bro, you're gonna be on the heroes tribe, don't worry. But when I was cast on the villain tribe, I was like, uh-oh. Like I know Pirate Sarah,
mhm.
and it's kind of funny because I know she was very surprised when she heard the breakdown of everything and that Joe said that I was willing to work with Pirate Sarah.
Mhm.
I legit was. She just didn't want to work with me or at least to an extent. But I was like, look, she's really the only person I know on here.
Mhm.
let me just work on that. And so I started strategizing with her a little early. She was like going through the list and being like, oh, let's work with this, 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 and this. And I'm like, all right, you're more, you know, this world more than I do. Like I
Mhm.
was in one and I've watched some of them, and mostly the minis. And so she was like, oh, look out for Debbie. We'll probably target her first. And then lo and behold, Debbie messages me 1 day later, and then I'm like, okay, what do I do with this information? I definitely want to hear Debbie out and sees what she has to say, but do I tell Pirate Sarah? Is Pirate Sarah in on this? And this is like a test. So I did tell Pirate Sarah that Debbie contacted me. And then like she got a little bit of a kick out of that. She's like, oh my God, she's doing this stuff right now. And then I talked to Debbie, and it was the thing where she dropped out. And so I proved loyalty to Pirate Sarah before the
Mhm.
game even started, before even getting blood on my hands. And I was like, okay, I proved loyalty. She and I should be good, right?
Right. Nope, apparently not.
Apparently not. And then as one more person dropped out, Brandon, it was, I forget, when Debbie stepped down, Brandon got cast in it. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I have a connection with Joe. So, and he's going to be worried because he has a target on his back being a recent winner.
Right.
So he should be a good person to reach out to. And Joe gave me a good reference too. So he should
Right.
be a good person to reach out to, right?
Apparently not either.
This game was vastly different what I was thought it was going to, who I was going to
Right.
line with going into it. The only person other than that I saw from the trailer that I knew was Rachel, but I never spoken Rachel to directly. But I started talking to her the day Facebook crashed, and it's kind of hard to not forget that because I was like, I didn't realize Facebook crashed when I messaged her, and I was
Right.
like, okay, like is she just not messaging me or something like that? And
Yeah.
then she and I were talking for quite a bit up until then, not like constantly, but like every now and then we would like check in on each other. Um, and then, as it came closer, here's a lot of things that some people going into this did not know. The only people that knew was Joe, and when I made my first confessional, I watched Vanquish 7, 8, and 9
Mhm.
because that was the majority of the people who have played in those seasons. And I'm like, all right, if I watch those seasons, I'll be able to know how these people play. And then also, you know, if they try and lie to me about certain stuff, how they played or whatnot, because I'm new, because all I said going in was, oh, I really only watch the minis.
Right.
I can fact check and be like, okay, I know this, this, this. And like when I was watching, I was definitely keeping an eye on, the people I'd be playing with. And so when we get to, and then I even had ideas. Here's another person that I really wanted to work with, Jenny.
Or Jen.
And, it's like, hey, here's some people that I really want to work with. And, it's those three going in. Rachel was the only one Alliance pregame because the game started on Tuesday. I know that
Yeah.
some people think different. The game didn't start till Tuesday. So my pregame
Mhm.
was, those beats. I didn't reach out to Jenny, but like, one more person dropped. And it was like the day when the chats were supposed to open. And I'm like, who's it going to be at this point? I know it's
Right.
not going to be Joe. I know it's not going to be Matt because they're doing the
Draft.
breakdown with you guys.
Yeah.
And so when it was Amy, I was like, oh, I remember Amy. And, she has a military background. Both of my parents are vets. So I'm
Right.
like, she's someone I really would like to work with and talk to. And she reached out to me first, and we pretty much started talking right off the bat. And she was my actual, ride or die. Some people watching might not have expected that. They would have thought Rachel was probably my ride or die.
Right.
However, going into this, Joe did say, because he was from the same season, that Rachel is just a social butterfly. People always come to her and whatnot. Everyone wants to work with Rachel. And so, like, I know I was aligned with her, but I was always a little worried that she may flop because she has all the options.
Right.
But, when the chat started it opening, I really was talking to Amy a lot, and I was talking to Rachel, and was trying to contact Pirate Sarah to no avail. Some people were saying like JJ, like, oh, I might be busy because I have school and stuff. Brandon, he was busy because he has a very active social life.
Right.
So like at the beginning, it was really just Rachel and Amy and I talking. And then we formed, this was also my very first alliance. We were the Wolf Pack.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I was excited too because like at first I was nervous, like, oh wait, but are we actually having an alliance together? Is this real? And then I started to feel like, yeah, we have the Wolf Pack. We each had nicknames. Beowulf was my nickname. Sailor Moon was Rachel's.
Mhm.
Amy was Luna. And so I was like, all right, we got a solid three. And it just came together naturally. So I'm like, this is perfect. And one more thing that kind of happened was Amy said that she's not quite fond of Pirate Sarah. And I
Yep.
even mentioned this in my confessional. I'm like, man, these are two people I really enjoy, and they don't get along. I know it sucks when you watch that on Survivor. It's like, I love Sarah Lucina and I love Tyson Apostle. And the
Yes.
fact they don't get along in real life, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
when they were gunning for each other. So I knew that that was something I would have to navigate going forward.
Yeah, yeah, and like honestly, as soon as I cast Amy, Pirate Sarah messages me is like, Jake, why did you put Amy in? Like, I'm sorry, Amy did reach out to me like after I announced that we needed a replacement. So
But honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened. This game would have been totally different if Victoria stayed on.
right.
Um, yeah. And so I really was starting to talk to them, and they were saying they were talking to JJ and Corey, and I was slow to start talking to them. And I was like,
Mhm.
I probably should, because it seemed like a majority was starting to be made.
Mhm.
And this majority started being made because we were the only five that were really talking.
Mhm.
And that's how it got the name. And I suggested it, the Chatterbox. JJ started up the chat and I named it. And, it was very important that JJ was the one to start the chat too, because it looks like it's JJ's idea. And
Right.
also, we're going to talk about it later about alliances and in how many alliances a person's in. I think it's also very important to fact check who start them, but
Right.
I digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we'll get into all of that later as we go further into the game. But
Yeah.
you have anything else to say on what you were saying?
Yeah. And I mean, there were some people that I was really trying to reach out to everyone except for Cody, but Cody was MIA.
Right.
He wasn't even reading the messages. He was like, if Kenna didn't show up, he would have just been the sacrificial first boot
Right.
because, well, he's not here. And then, you know, I was like trying to reach out. I tried to reach out to Jen. Sarah would talk to me every now and then. I tried to reach out to Brandon. He was a little scarce. And then Saturday comes and we have the solid five, and Brandon is finally talking. And, I still wanted to keep that open because I haven't talked to the dude. And Friday he was sick and whatnot. And so I was already in kind of game mode because this is the day of. And he comes in
Right.
and, you know, Joe did tell me that I kind of came in hot, that I was talking like I knew better than him, that he was beneath me and stuff like that. But that wasn't the case at all. I am sorry if I came off that way, but sometimes I kind of skip over small talk and I'm like, hey, you
Mhm.
haven't been talking to anyone. You might want to start. Might want to start because the game has already begun.
Right.
And, obviously he's done more orcs than me. I knew he was tight with Pirate Sarah because that's what everyone was saying prior.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I also wanted to make sure, you know, he was a name that we discussed of someone to boot too. But I wanted to make sure whatever he told Pirate Sarah, because I knew they were a duo, lines up with what I've been talking to Pirate Sarah about. I was very keen on making sure that all the narratives matched each other. The thing is, Pirate Sarah wasn't giving me anything, so I'm not gonna work with her if
Right.
she's not. She gave me little things. She talked about four to be in, but she didn't invite me in the four. So the four for her was Sarah, Brandon, Corey, and Rachel. And Corey told us about it. And now, just little thing, if someone is telling you about your alliance, they are not fully with you. And so I know, Sarah and Brandon, they thought they had numbers, they thought they had control. They did not. Uh,
Yeah.
Granted, Sarah found the idol, and that was saving great. But I also know she does play it often if she feels she's in danger. But at the same time, if she felt confident, she might have held on to it, and she could have gotten booted after Jen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will agree. I think your 5 was solid in the beginning, so I do think like you 5 would have stuck together. Like I don't
Yeah.
I don't see you guys breaking.
Oh, I didn't
Well,
see it
until
either
later, but
but we'll get to that. Another important thing going into this was because I was on the villain tribe, in my personal life, I've let down friends before, and I'm someone where I'm pretty hard on myself.
Mhm.
And I'm someone like when I was put on this villain tribe, I was like, all right, you don't want to be perceived as a villain, do something about it.
Right.
And so I went into this game with the mindset of like, hey, I'm going to play as a hero. And one of the things is now I had 2 people that I was going to protect no matter what, which was Rachel and Amy. And those 2, like, if I had an opportunity to save them or like make sure I let them in the know on everything, I would say more so Amy because I know Rachel had a lot of information going her way and she could have gone a different direction if she so choose. She did say that the wolf pack was where she wanted to pretty much go with. But I will admit it would have been bad taking me to a final 2 because I feel like I could have potentially won this game. But before we talk about that, so yeah, Hero Alliance. And then right before things, we didn't know where because Rachel didn't tell the wolf pack about this, so we're all kind of like panicking. Within that panic, you see, because I watched Corey's season,
Mhm.
and because he and I had this conversation, our first conversation, he was like, my season, my alliance, they didn't want to like flop or switch or anything. And I'm
Sapphire
like,
Strong,
I
yeah.
even warned Amy about this. I'm like, this is our first conversation. And you said that you want to turn on your alliance.
Yeah.
That's a red flag.
Right. It definitely is. I mean, I hear that and I'm like, is he gonna flip flop as soon as it's convenient?
I mean, a little bit. It's funny how so many things foreshadowed other things.
Mhm.
Um, and then, Sarah, like, and then with all this chaos, and like, it did seem like it was going to be Amy versus Sarah. And so there was a call where things were kind of, I let JJ know that he wasn't in that alliance and that
Mhm.
um, the, I don't know what Sarah called that alliance of 4, but I knew that she wanted us as 5 and 6. And telling JJ that was important because that established trust, be like, hey, we're kind of in the same boat. That established a final 2, not a real final 2, but real until it becomes the most optimal route.
Right.
But we'll get to that later on a different thing.
Yeah.
And so there was also a final 3 made, and the chat was literally called Final 3. JJ named it that. And between Corey, JJ, and myself. And also, I wanted to establish a final 3 with them, mostly because to keep an eye on Corey.
Yeah.
In case he wanted to turn or anything, and if he thinks we're tight, then I can tell the others, or, maybe avoid a blindside. Like if this was the final 5, we take out Corey before, and like then the Wolfpack has the numbers.
Right.
And right before we started, Sarah put together a group called the Villainous 6. So everyone except Amy and Jenny and Cody didn't count at this point.
Right. Right.
So like we just kind of knew where like the things were, and I'm just in this alliance, and I'm like, I know this is like a fake alliance essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it was definitely like one that was like cobbled together like last minute to try to control things. And But let's get into the game now. And so you guys start the game, and the villains end up winning the reward challenge and then the first three immunity challenges. So like, did you expect going in that your tribe was going to be like the challenge beast tribe?
Actually, yes. And here's why. I know that y'all thought it was going to be the heroes,
Mhm,
but on our team, we had Jen, Comp Beast, Corey, Comp Beast, Sarah, who's done a lot of these things,
mhm.
me, who is generally good at challenges. It's like when I looked at my season back, I was actually good at challenges. It's just I was on teams where someone else underperformed. Like obviously I could have done better and that might have helped some of
Mhm.
them. I mean, the only like challenge that I really sucked at was the card throwing one.
Yeah.
Uh, so, you know, going into this, I'm like, we have a pretty strong team. And Brandon also did a bunch of these too. So, like, I'm like, we have a really, yeah, I really liked our chances going in.
Mhm,
And yeah, we were crushing a lot of the challenges. And it was happy. And it was like complete opposite of what happened the last mini I did
mhm.
because in that one, I went to all but one tribal council. And this
Right.
one, I only went to one tribal council.
Right.
So I was happy. I was able to eat my food and relax. And I will say the summit was a lot of things that we talked about was all right, summit is probably where we're going to get advantages. So we have to make sure that it's someone within the chatterbox that gets it,
Mhm.
and most ideally, one of the wolves. And of course, the first opportunity we get, Jen goes, and I'm like, so many people were like, not for that. I'm like, good work, guys. We came in with this plan already out. She might get an idol. She was our first person we wanted to get out.
Yeah.
Why are we giving her that chance? And then she goes in with Susan, and then Susan's like, "Hey, I kind of want to be a villain. I'm changing up my strategy." And then they look down the list, and then of course it's me that they want to put a vote on.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it about me that people are just drawn? Is it the Riz? Is it the pretty boy thing? Is like what is it? Is it just that I know that big dick energy is targeted early, but I didn't bring big dick energy into it. Sarah had the biggest dick. But like, if we're talking big dick energy, that's where it lied. Um, you know, but yeah, the votes were on me. I do kind of forgive her because she said I was tall, which is not the case. But that kind of, when I rewatched, that cushioned the blow. So thankfully, it wasn't like an advantage. The advantages came from the emojis you put in the chat, which I didn't know because I tried to claim one. I didn't
Yeah.
take a screenshot, but I'm like, I claimed the devil and I didn't hear anything back. So I was like, okay, I guess that wasn't it. That was just Jake being cheeky. But of course, Pirate Sarah had that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were winning. It was exciting because, we were hoping to get at least the seven. And Jen was going to be that first vote, mostly because it kept the numbers ambiguous. I was
Mhm.
a little worried too because Rachel was having power outage issues, so she could be a potential target as well. But I knew that Rachel was so woven into everyone that she would probably be safe.
Yeah.
And then, of course, and like I really wanted to go to Summit, and they let Brandon go. And then JJ and I really wanted to go. We played rock, paper, scissors. So he went in the third challenge. And then, of course, I'm going to Summit
Yeah.
when
Let's
it's the
talk about
most,
that.
yeah. And so it was already established I was going first. And when I was listening to Michael's, it didn't sound like or it's like he was unsure whether or not they were like, oh, there's a connection there, Michael, talk to him. um but I was still happy to see him because was someone I wanted to work with. It was just like we would have to either get on the same tribe or merge
Right.
come. And so I really didn't know what to do here because the thing about the either villain advantage or the hero advantage is that it reveals numbers.
Right.
And so, like, if it's going on my tribe, well, it didn't have to be, but I was like, I kind of want to do something with it. And he was all for it. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to put a vote on someone because the first chance I get, am I really going to choose the villain thing when I said I want to play like a hero? I'm like,
Mhm.
no, so I have to choose the hero thing. And the thing is, when you make decisions, you have to have a fake reason sometimes.
Right.
It's the reason you tell everyone. And I was like, well, I can't do Amy because that's going to reveal numbers. I can't do Sarah because that would hurt Amy. And then I'm like, I can't put it on Corey or JJ because they may think something's there. Definitely can't do it on Jen because she's the target.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, Rachel doesn't have a vote. Maybe Jen might try and flip it on Rachel. And also, she wasn't able to play, and I didn't want to lose her because she was a close ally.
Mhm.
And also, inadvertently, I wanted to make a dad joke. Safety without power.
Oh my
Because there
God.
was a power outage where she couldn't vote, she couldn't play, and she had safety. So it was the ultimate dad joke
Oh
as
my
well.
God. Well, it worked. But I mean, so this happens, you save Rachel, and I guess this gives Jen the avenue to try to throw you under the bus. So the fireworks
Yes.
start at Tribal and you are being piled on by Jen here. So how do you
Yes.
react to this?
So when I first went in, so what was going on in the chats prior? In our breakout room, it was really just the villains staying in the beach.
Mhm.
We were pretty much buddy systeming the whole thing. And then when I come back, they're like, so what happened? I'm not gonna lie, one, because they announced it before the votes and whatnot, and
Yeah,
two, like I had to be honest in that moment.
right.
And I told him, yeah, I saved Rachel because she's not, here. She ran out of power, and that's not her fault. And I don't want her to be eliminated just because of an act of God.
Mhm.
And so I didn't realize this going in, and no one even said it until Jen's speech. But people were starting to be like, "Oh, well, Jen was preaching take out Rachel, and if Ryan protects Rachel, let's vote out Ryan."
Mhm.
And so everyone starts scrambling. Hearing a bunch of things, and where I'm trying to be like, "Hey, let's make sure that we stick to the plan. Let's do this. It has to be Jen." And then, you know, I wasn't in the room when this happened, but two things that were pretty important. One, Jen was trying to get a female alliance together, which that made certain people that would have voted me not vote for me.
Mhm.
Brandon did tell me that, hey, I would have voted for you if she didn't suggest that.
Oh wow.
And then, yeah, and then within this chaos, also JJ told Jen that she was the target. And then I'm like,
I did hear that.
I hope you don't have an idol. I hope she doesn't have an idol or that Pirate Sarah plays it on her or something because I'm just screwed if that happens. And another thing that I heard happening, so Amy was trying to protect me too. She even talked to Corey and JJ of like, hey, should we throw two votes on someone else just in case an idol is played? And from what Amy told me, that they were willing to sacrifice me.
Oh
That
wow.
was like, hey, it's not me. Or it's not me, as in that's what they were saying.
Yes.
That Ryan is better than JJ or Ryan better than Corey. It's not them.
Mhm.
Which, that was another thing going forward. It wasn't in my idea when I made that decision about Corey, but I'm pretty sure subliminally it made that a little easier.
Mhm.
So, when this happens, going into this, my mom told me, you were too loud. You did all this stuff in your first game. You have to be the gray man. You have to be kind of cool, calm, collective, listen to what people are saying. I went into this game really only choosing allies, not targets. And I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that was the thing going in. And so when Jenny revealed that I was her target, she put a vote on me. I'm like, of course. And then she's talking, and I felt bad for her too, because yeah, the reason why she wasn't talking, she was spending time with her mother.
Right.
And that's something where I'm like, well, I can't fault her for that. But at the same time, that's just how the meta of this season went. Even on the Heroes Tribe, too. That's just how it was going.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to sacrifice my game just because I feel bad for someone. Um, and I tried. I at least had one snide remark where I was like, "Was it the sunglasses?" Which was funny because when they went back, they identified me as that blonde guy with sunglasses. So that just adds to the comedy
Yeah.
for the audience. So, when that was happening, she was like, "All right, I got 2 votes on Ryan." And in my head, obviously, I was going to say this out loud. I'm thinking, you really didn't watch my season. You're going to need a lot more than 2 votes. It took 26 last time.
Right, right.
But, I also had respect for Jen because, like, she was someone I did want to work with, but the rest of my alliance wasn't going that direction. It made no sense, and it helped keep the numbers ambiguous, which was important. And so, I'm just here. I'm like sad because I'm like, if I go home because of this, yeah, that's gonna suck a lot because I hyped this up and also my story just ends here. I don't get to prove that I'm a hero or anything.
Right.
And I even said I was like, yeah, I'm on the villain tribe. I made a hero decision, which is something I probably, that was like a little thing that I wanted to do was protect someone, and I did. So that is like if I did one heroic thing, that was the only thing. Um, but yeah, and then Jen didn't say she had an idol, and then the numbers are reading, and then the numbers were on my side. It
Mhm.
was 2 on me, all on her, and I felt safe because I'm like, thank you.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that was that little fiasco.
Yep, yep. And so then after that, I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of fallout, but you guys do win the last immunity challenge before the merge happens at the end of night one. So I mean, at that point, what happens at the end of night one after you guys win the last one?
So, fun fact, I actually called that we're going to do this challenge. I was talking to JJ and Corey, and then we were talking about the item list, and I was like, well, only thing I can really think of, like the 2 pencils and whatnot, is maybe take a ping pong ball and do this. I didn't think it was going to be like the Italian hand style where you have to do this with it.
Mhm.
Um, if you're listening on home, where you're having it like the Italian hand meme, where you have your thumb against all your other fingers, and it's like that.
Mhm.
So, you know, and the fact that I was second to last to drop, there's this interesting little thing that happened where I was I was the second to last drop. So villains technically won when I was still in play because Erica dropped.
Right,
However, I was just merely Sarah was just a little better than me. And this
right.
was a little common theme because in the scavenger hunt, Sarah won, and I was the last villain to be eliminated.
Yep.
And when it came to the idol, I don't know if I tried to claim the devil, it didn't work, but she got it first. So I'm like, okay, not many people didn't realize you had to screenshot it and then do it. But I'm pretty
Right.
sure that when she was the first one to do it and I was like the one to claim the devil, I was either second, third, or fourth because like no one knew about the emojis.
Right.
Um, and then going to the next day, villains were talking, the chatterboxes were talking, and it's like, we really, and here's the thing, people were preaching villain strong. And even Amy was like, no, we're going to say villain strong and stuff like that. The thing is, I did not trust Pirate Sarah. When she didn't include me in that 4, why would I trust her to say villain strong, especially when she had a hunch that she was on the bottom? It makes zero sense to do that because then
Yeah.
she's the bottom of 7. Um, so yeah. And then going into the next day, I know that Michael did want to talk and whatnot because of our little thing. So I barely slept, but when I woke up, I saw a message from him, message from the group chat that was made for the new tribe, the Banana Tribe.
Yep.
And so I knew that, I would have to start work soon and get things going.
Yeah, so let's go into that because this is the big implosion that completely impacts your game. And this is where Corey accidentally reveals the chatterboxes to Sarah by including her in the chat. So walk me through what happened with the chaos of day 2 with this.
All right. So before we get there, I have to go back to the little talk with Michael because
Mm.
that played a huge thing. I did want to work with him and I did have a talk with him, see where his head was at. Obviously, he's scared because it's 4 heroes versus 7 villains. And so I did want to work with him. I wanted to see if he had any info on like how to get the idols, because my thought was, well, I thought it was, the emojis, but I didn't hear anything back. So I thought, well, that can't be the case. And so when he was talking, he was like, all right, well, that's a little leverage I do have. So, you know, um, come to him a deal and stuff and whatnot, and he'll share that information and whatnot. And here's the thing, I did want to work with the heroes, even if it was a fake alliance, mostly because if I get to them before Sarah does,
Right.
they're on our side.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking in the shower about like, all right, what kind of proposal can I bring to him that he will A, believe? Because like I could be like, oh, you'll be in six. That's not gonna work. If I bring him into the chatterbox as, the only hero,
Right.
that's not gonna work. Why would he do that when someone might give him a better offer? And so I
Mhm.
was thinking of something. And then remember how I said you always give another reason for your reasons?
Right.
What I did was I was like, all right, so what can we do? Maybe the Summit Alliance. And that was something, it was a shower thought I had. I was like, wait, because that way, the only, basically the people who survive that are a duo in this excluded Brandon for that reason. Because, like, all right, he went with Greg. Greg got eliminated. So that's a reason why he wouldn't be in the summit thing. So I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, if we get the pairs from the summits, we can come together as a six, and that's majority. And my plan, well, first, I want to make sure that Amy was okay with it. She was. I didn't know she was talking to Anthony and Michael, but it's like, okay, but if anything, that made it more legit, or at least give the illusion to the heroes that this is a legit alliance.
Mhm.
And so, reached out to JJ, told him about this, and then we were slowly getting this, alliance together. And then what happened was, so there was a call earlier today or earlier that day. Rachel, so this is a crappy thing I did. I hung up on Rachel to talk to Sarah,
Oh, okay.
and that hurt her feelings. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to keep my enemies, closer than my friends. And I was like, oh, I made the assumption, oh yeah, Rachel and I are already cool. I need to talk to Pirate Sarah to see where her head's at.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, that hurt her feelings. And I heard through Amy that I did that. And so like I honestly wanted to correct the mistake. And she and I didn't really get to talk too much before like the first night. And then by that time she didn't have power, so I couldn't message her. But so this is our first time talking.
Mhm.
And, it kind of got a little heartfelt a little bit because I apologized that I hurt her or did that. And she was like, it was fine. I was like, no, and I told her, she was the first person I told about coming in wanting to play like hero because, I've been labeled a villain in my life. And, sometimes I believe that. And obviously, this is just a game, but I want to play this game like a hero to prove myself that I can do that, to kind of like reclaim my own story, my own narrative,
Right.
um, and possibly seek redemption along the way. And so, like, she and I had a heart to heart, and then I did propose like a final two. I already knew that just going in, she probably already has a bunch already, but
Mhm.
this was something that was genuine. I did feel in the moment, and this was around the time where we were talking, or when it was announced, oh, final two, it's not going to be a final three. So wanted to also have that established. So Amy is on the plane, so we couldn't video chat her. And so the villainous six got together, fake alliance. We're all just smiling. And it's amazing how many lies I caught Sarah in. The thing is, and I played into it, I can't call her out on it because that makes me a target.
Right.
Only thing I wanted to do was to make her think that I believed it, that I wasn't double checking on stuff. Because she didn't know for sure. She had a strong feeling, but there was no evidence based on what she was given from me that I was actually against her.
Mhm.
So she had no reason. And then, when I first talked to her earlier that day, she mentioned that A, she didn't have an or she mentioned the emojis and whatnot, and that's how you got it. And I learned that from Michael. And I'm like, wait, have you talked to any heroes? She said no. How would she know that without talking to a hero? And then she did say in the Villainous Six that she did talk to a hero
Huh.
before our call. And I even looked back and be like, oh, okay. I made this whole thing of like, okay, maybe the heroes are making up some stuff about this. And I would have told the other people about that too, but our time was running out. And then Sarah still wanted to talk. And I'm like, okay, sure. I still need to talk to Erica because like she's the one Summit Alliance that I haven't talked to yet
Mhm.
before it becomes official. And so we enter into a different group. We could have just went to the villain chat, to be honest, because like that was another thing that we made that we could have jumped onto. And Amy's there, but Amy is, on a plane. She can't video call right now.
Yeah.
So we made a group and it was like literally a group just to talk for another extra 10 minutes. And then Corey made the chat. We didn't establish who was making the chat. I was even starting to make the chat. And then Corey made it. And then we're continue talking. Now, I'm not a person that looks at messages and stuff when I'm talking to someone. I might
Yeah.
finish something up, but I like giving people my undivided attention.
Right.
And so after my inspirational speech, I forgot what I was saying and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, we're on song. I was like, how much time do we have? Because I'm always like, how much time before we move on to the next thing?
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes, I'm like, oh, so does anyone have anything else they want to talk about? And then Corey drops that bomb that he added her to the chatterbox. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And like this is something like it's like and then you said time was up and I'm like this is this is not good. Now she has access to that chat. Thankfully, from what I understand, she didn't real there was nothing in that chat that we talked about targeting them. That was only in our video chats, which was good because that way, we looked a little clean. And then Corey felt upset, and I was talking to him right after, literally right after. I'm like, Corey, let's talk. And this is where I stopped playing like a hero. This is where I did something kind of shitty. It's why do I always say kind of probably this? It was shitty what I was about to do. And when I'm talking to him at the beginning of it, I was genuinely like trying to like make him not feel bad because he's like, oh, just vote me out, just vote me out. I messed up royally. And then while I'm talking to him, I was like, you might have to sacrifice this dude. So I was making sure he felt safe,
Mhm.
that I was still with him. Because if he suspects he's going to get blindsided, he's going to scramble because Corey said that he would flip. And so I'm talking to him and it's like, and I'm like being this is where the acting skill comes in,
Yeah.
where you're
I was,
like,
I was gonna ask if you were playing it up a bit, or was it completely genuine?
the thing is, that's the thing about acting. I wasn't playing it up. I was being genuine that
Mhm.
things were going to be okay and all that. And I told him this knowing that he's probably going to have to be sacrificed. Now, here's the thing. I had this idea and then I immediately kind of started acting upon it. Or not acting upon it. Like I basically had that idea and that was going to be my proposition to the Summit Alliance. So I went and talked to Erica and it was like, hey, we need to get all together and stuff because Sarah just found out about this alliance of five and whatnot. So we're here for the majority and
Mhm.
whatnot. Basically being like, hey, so this alliance is kind of compromised. We are coming with you. This is legit. This was something that we were cooking up prior to all this. And now Sarah knows that she is on the bottom. So, I was coming with that. And this is where I started to spiral. Or I'm someone where I'm like, all right, where I'm like, okay, I gotta fix this, gotta fix this. And then I told Rachel that this was a fake alliance prior, and she didn't really mention too much about it. I know that Michael was kind of talking to him, but when I was talking to Rachel, she's like, I really don't, she's not really behind this idea because she didn't like Erica. I'm not sharing that reason because that's their business or
Right.
whatnot.
Mhm.
And I don't know even if that has been resolved since then. If they've talked, they're two adults, that's their business.
Yes.
So I was, like, look, this is a fake thing. We're going to just flop on them or flip on them around 9 once we get rid of Sarah and this. And that was a thing where she was starting to lose faith in me because I was starting to put the gameplay in front of stuff. And I'm like, no, I have to fix this. I have to fix this because when I'm presented with a problem, that's where my kind of mind goes. And so when I had the Summit Alliance, Amy, who can't talk or anything, is messaging me. It's like, well, I don't know what you're going to do. I'm like, I think I have a plan. And so I didn't run the plan by her before we went into the talk. And so I was like, hey, I think we need to get rid of, and this is my first thing. And another thing that was kind of shitty that I did in this moment, um, Alex kind of likes to joke around a lot. And like
Mhm.
sometimes he'll pop up in his space and stuff in the match, you know. And I'm like, dude, any other time I would love to see you, but please just turn off your camera. Because I was in that stress and I feel bad and I'm definitely gonna have to I didn't realize as I was talking that was kind of bad. So I am gonna message him afterwards. Um and so, I'm trying to put, say, oh, we take out Corey because if we vote for Sarah, if we vote for Brandon and they have an idol and they play it, then one of us goes, probably me, probably Amy. And I didn't want that to happen. And so I'm like trying to like be like, well, if we put the votes on Corey, she wastes her idol. Any of the votes she casts towards us won't count. And then Corey's gone. And, it seemed like a good plan. Heroes were all on board because the villain's going. And it makes if it works, it makes the threat looks weaker. The thing is, no one had to leak that Corey was going to be the target for it to work. And I'm like, no one in this group is that stupid. I know JJ's your boy,
I
but that was a very bad move on his part too
and
for
I'll
his
I'll
game.
just say, I mean, he was taking a lot of risks because then he was throwing you under the bus.
He
And
did. But here's basically how it went. Then Amy heard my plan and whatnot and was like, wait, you want to vote out Corey? And I'm like, yes. And she's
Mhm.
like, why? He's a number with us. And I'm like, it's so we don't have to waste our votes and whatnot. And I think that's the thing about implicit immunity, which plays a huge factor into this next portion of the game, is you don't want your vote to not mean anything
Right.
because it's not even a thing of like shamed or anything. It's just like your vote doesn't count or your voice, the one active movement you can do here
Mhm.
doesn't matter. And so like it just gets, your votes get thrown out. They don't count. And so it's like that was like the main thing because I knew she had an idol. I thought she could have had two. I had theories about that too. And so Amy was like, listen, I don't like the direction this is all going. And the thing is, like, I was so laser focused on trying to get them to the end. And the thing is, I have a bit of a Atlas complex. No, it has to be on me. And so all the like cool collective stuff I did prior up to this point was starting to unwind because something big happened and I was starting to lose my composure and it was starting to happen more. And then Amy's like, look, you need to go on a walk. Because that's what I told Corey what to do to help him cool down. And then Corey found out he was told by JJ. And I'm like, well, my game is done at this point. And then people started putting things together. And I was definitely hard on myself on that point.
Mhm.
That's another bad habit of mine. I'm very hard on myself, but I'm only hard on myself when I know I did wrong.
Yeah.
And then she was like, they're talking about all these different alliances you're in. To be fair, I didn't start all those alliances.
Right.
One of them came naturally, which was the Wolf Pack. The other one was formed by JJ. The other one was formed by Pirate Sarah. Yes, I did have a chat with Michael and Anthony, but that was more so to talk to Anthony as well as Michael and getting the group together before Erica was available. That
Yeah.
was called the Pretty Boy Alliance. or it wasn't even called the Pretty Boy. It's the Pretty Boy Chat or something like that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even an alliance. That was just me trying to talk to two alliance members. And then obviously the Summit crew, which I wasn't the group that put together, but yes, it was my idea. And then all this stuff started piling up. And at this point, I wasn't really talking to anyone because I was trying to take care of my mental health because it wasn't like Amy was right. I had to go for a walk and stuff, and she's telling me all this, and I'm just feeling, bad.
Mhm.
And then, it started to hiss. And then she said something like, "You weren't a good alliance with five people." And when she said that, I was like, I did kind of lose sight of my friends and whatnot because I felt like if I were to compare my game to a Marvel character, it would be Doctor Strange and not 616. Either Sinister Strange, the one that, or the
With
one
the
from What If, where
oh yeah yeah yeah.
I'm like, yeah, where things were starting to collapse. And then, Amy started saying that her game was compromised. I was talking to Rachel and she was talking about giving rogue votes. And then I just felt bad because like all these people that I care about, their games are starting to unwind and it's my fault. And that's what I own up to. Granted, a lot of people were starting to spread rumors about me where, oh, Brandon was like, Ryan told me about Chattergate or Chatterbox. And I'm like, that's not true.
Right.
I told him after it was already revealed.
Hmm.
Because he messaged me and I'm like, yeah, that's it. The only people are like, oh, he leaked stuff about the Summit crew. And I'm like, that is also not true. I did talk to Rachel about it, but Rachel doesn't use that stuff for anything, or at least maybe she did, or I don't know if she did or not once the summit was blown up. But like for Rachel, I was only letting her know because I wanted to make sure that she knew where my allegiances truly lied.
Hmm.
Um, but obviously she didn't tell Corey or anything about that plan. So, my game started to come apart, and because I wasn't talking, I wasn't able to control the narrative anymore. And so a lot of shit got pinned on me, some of which that I don't think is deserved. Granted, there are three guilty parties of why Chatterbox collapsed.
Hmm.
I'd say I have a big chunk of that pie because I'm the one that turned on someone. Well, Jade, I'm the one that turned on first. But the first move was um, Corey adding Sarah. And then the second move was, and a big portion of it was me putting out Corey's name. And then the third was JJ telling Corey. And
Yeah.
then, that's what killed Chatterbox.
Hmm.
But I did have a big portion in that. And then I was just upset because here I am wanting to play like a hero and stuff like that. And I'm the one that put the game ahead of friends, and that's not a hero thing to do. And I was like, no, but it makes sense to get rid of him because he's not part of the wolf pack. And I try to rationalize him. Like in my heart, I knew that I betrayed my friends, and not that too many people were talking me anyway.
Hmm.
But I was like just kind of just in my room, just kind of like not doing much, just kind of like reflecting. I'm like, yeah, I really messed up here. And I got into a talk with Rachel, and Alex was also in there. But, I was talking to Rachel, and around this time, I'm like, I at least want to apologize to all the chatterbox, maybe have an alliance, because if none of our games are working, they're not going to expect us to work together again.
Hmm.
But I knew that was going to be a very hard sell on Corey for obvious reasons.
Right.
So I did reach out and I was talking to Rachel, and at this point, I'm already just kind of sad. I've been crying the whole day because like, or not the whole day, but like just realizing how I hurt friends, even if I just knew them for less than a week. And I didn't even care about the game at that point, really. But I was talking to Rachel. The writing was on the wall. It was going to be me at 11. No one was talking to me. I was being iced out, a pariah again, except this time I actually earned it.
Right.
And then, well, I don't think fully, but I do think that because of my actions, it was suitable to be some amongst the people talked about, if not the front runner.
Right, right. And so you know you're in danger, so you know you probably need to win immunity. And it comes to the planking challenge, and it's a split tribal, and you and Corey
Yeah,
both win immunity after you planked for almost 10 minutes. So
yeah. That was that was interesting because I was talking to Rachel and then afterwards Alex of like, get ready for the best immunity streak you've ever seen that any orc has seen. And I'm saying that like joking. And I'm
yeah.
like, if not, I went out 11 last time. If I go out 11 this time, 11-11, make a wish. She got a good chuckle out of that. But, you know, I was just sad going into it. And then when I heard that it was going to be the planking challenge, I'm like, okay, this is endurance. I'm good at endurance, but but also within this mix, you know, you have Kevin and then you have Anthony. Both these
Right,
guys are, ripped. They are very athletic players and challenge beasts. And then when
right,
you said it split, I'm like, okay, let's see where the numbers lie. And of course, you get these two guys up against me. Now I'm like fit. I'm slim fit, but I'm not like fit like
right.
them. And so, I knew it was going to be uphill battle. I'm not going to give up just because, I'm feeling bad about myself. And I'm like, I talk to people, I'm like, I'm good at endurance competitions. Well, this was my time to at least showcase what I could do.
Yep,
And so, when the first tribe, I think they were the blue ones, went down, we were still going and I knew I was going to be in for a long haul. And I knew that I could not give up at all. Like I
right.
could not waver. And we're a couple minutes in and like, Sarah and JJ have already dropped. And then I'm like, all right, I have to keep going. Because in practice rounds, I only did it for 3.5 minutes.
Mhm.
So I knew that, this will be raw willpower. I thought the performance might make it, the performance adrenaline was kicking in and stuff, which in practice, when it comes to planking, is like, oh, well, I can just stop whenever. So maybe that's what I thought my limit was.
Mhm.
But I knew I had to keep going and I knew that was impossible odds, but I'm like, I will be damned if I did not give it a mile. I'm like, I'm going to collapse before I throw in the towel. And then thankfully, the cat comes in and at least makes him chuckle. Now, he did give up at some point. Some people say the cat made a difference. Maybe, but at the same time, he's really good at this. I mean, I was talking shit. I wasn't talking shit. I was just kind of like making little remarks here and there. And the
Right.
fact I was still able to do the plank was also pretty cool. Um, and so when he went out, I'm like, okay, now I just have to outlast Anthony, which is saying a lot because this dude, very fit. He's a dance, teacher slash dancer. Like this dude, going up against this dude is going to be tough.
Yeah,
And then we went on for a while, but I noticed that he was like moving around and readjusting. I'm like, yeah, I might like move my head and stuff, or maybe, move my butt up or down, but I wasn't moving that much. So I'm like,
right.
I know I can last. I just have to wait until he slips up. And then like when we're going into 9 minutes in around this point, I'm like, how long has this challenge been? Like, Jesus.
Yeah,
And then when he dropped, I was like surprised because I'm like, I actually did it. And this was
yeah.
also my first immunity win.
Mhm.
And I was one exhausted. Like I couldn't even sit back up for the first like 30 seconds because like I just used everything I had for that one challenge. And like I was kind of like disoriented, which going into before this challenge, I knew that I had to be on the lookout for the emoji, for the banana emoji coming out. But when that challenge ended, and then when, I won, and then like we had to strategize for whatever reason, because why would I be stupid enough to think that people would talk to me strategy, even though I was safe?
Right.
I should have looked in the chat because I was the second person to screenshot the emoji. The first
Yep.
one, Pirate Sarah,
Yep.
once
Once again.
again thwarted. I'm like, man, if I had that idol, I could have at least made it to 7, tied with Joe. Um,
Right.
because I'm like, okay, now she has this, so cool. And so when Amy said she was targeted, and then obviously I knew JJ was probably going to be targeted unless we can convince, you know, people to vote out like one of the two stronger players. Or actually all three of them were strong. It was just JJ and me, and I had immunity, and then three strong players. So like
Yeah.
the only hope was that a strong player cannibalize each other, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And then I saw two allies of mine, and this was before I knew JJ blindsided me or
Mhm.
backstabbed me, just get eliminated before my eyes, which never really happened to me because in my first one, I didn't have as tight as a bond with Johnny before he got eliminated or
Mhm.
Mama Felicia. Um, so it didn't sting as much, but that happening, I'm like, especially Amy, who was my ride or die throughout this
Right.
whole thing, and despite everything, still remained loyal to me, saying that she wouldn't write my name down and everything.
Right.
And me knowing it was my fault too, it kind of hurt. And then I go into the next challenge, which involves arm strength, or at least steady arms to do. And I'm like, props to Anthony because he was able to recover from that. But for me, like it took everything I had. I didn't have the right. I was going to use a table, but it was short, so it couldn't do the 4 feet. And
Mhm.
then my flooring, it's like those wooden 2x4s, and so like, well, I have to do on the floor, but I don't have any like a smooth surface, so like any bump and stuff will do that. I could have put it against the wall, but I was also worried about camera angle as well, so that didn't play too much a factor. My aim was just off. I like maybe hit it once or twice, but it never went in.
Mhm.
But I like gave it my all, but once that I lost that challenge, and you said that it was going to be two people going home, I'm like, well, I know I'm going home here, but I wanted to at least try and save Rachel because she was vulnerable and she was the
Right.
last of that. Corey, Corey was safe, so I'm like, I just didn't want Rachel to go home because in this moment, I'm like, yeah, it's all my fault. And if she goes next, then that's just more on me. And
Mhm.
so I'm like trying to say Kevin's name because I knew Sarah had an idol, she might play it and whatnot. So I'm like, say Kevin, Kevin, Kevin to everyone except Kevin, obviously.
Yeah.
And then like I'm in this room with Corey, and Corey's still he's like in adrenaline mode. And I even told him beforehand when we had this apology with the chatterbox, and I gave him a public apology to the other chatterboxes because I really wanted to, I wanted to apologize to him because what I did was messed up.
Mhm.
I know it's a game, but at the same time, I didn't have to do that. Um, and so like I'm talking, I was like, please take out Kevin. I don't want Rachel to go home because of me or anything like that. And then he's like, I'm just going to stick with it and whatnot. No one was telling me numbers because they didn't want me to tamper the vote. And I'm like, please just do this, not for me, for Rachel. Because she was the last of the wolves left.
Right.
Um, and so, I'm at Final Tribal. I should have made more of a like in hindsight, I wish I was better at making up strategies on the spot than I am at puns. Maybe that's why the safety without power thing was so successful. If I can only just make a pun with my moves, with my strategies, I'd be on fire. But basically that thing, and it's kind of an interesting stark contrast from my first mini when you see me eliminated
Mhm.
because I'm trying to fight to stay, but now I'm just fighting. It's like, hey, do this one thing. I know I'm gone.
Right.
There's no point in doing anything. It's like just, I know where I'm voting, stuff like that. And then I started to ramble as I always do. But I was like, hey, Jake, it might be fun if you make me at eighth place, so that way it can be 11-8. Eight is my unlucky number, but 11-9 is more fitting because 11-9 is my birthday.
Oh wow.
November 9th is my birthday, so it's kind of funny that it ended that way. And then yeah, I got voted out, and then Rachel joined soon after. So we're just kind of talking in the jury chat a little bit,
Mhm.
both kind of like recovering from what happened.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, hey, I just want to say, like, when you came in, I wasn't sure how second chance was going to go for you, but the fact that you were able to get yourself in an alliance, like, early on, that was able to control the votes, and then you were able to fight and win that planking immunity, like, I have to give you massive props for that. Like, you did I think, get the redemption that you were seeking, and you made it 2 places farther than you did the first time. So like,
Thank you. For me, it's on paper, this game is better than my first game.
mhm,
And a lot of times I'll agree with you, but it's that one blemish. It's not even the fact that, oh, my game got blown up or anything for me trying to overplay, which I know JJ said, but like that's all relative. I
right.
was just trying to, Michael was doing the same thing, of making alliances, making sure he was getting to the end.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying like, well, Michael was able to do it, why not me? It's just more so like we're all playing the game in our own way. And so that was how I decided, to make sure that I had the heroes and whatnot on my side instead of Sarah's. And it just kind of all fell apart. And for me, the one thing that just holds me back is, and I didn't even, this is what I was fixated on, was betraying my friends. Like the next 2 days, there were times where I was crying. I'm getting a little right now, but like, because that's the one thing that holds me back from saying that I love this season. I have made a lot of great friends and stuff, but that's the thing that kind of stops me each time. And I know it's just a game, but you know, that really weighed on my head for like 2 days until I finished watching it. Because like I couldn't sleep or anything. Like I was watching it just to get closure on it.
Mhm,
And like, it was kind of putting in my head some of the things that were going on and whatnot, not just in here, but in personal life as well. But it didn't really hit me that if I didn't turn, there is a realm, actually a few realms where I possibly could have won this game because the coin thing wasn't my challenge.
mhm.
The squats, I don't know how my body would have done, but I know it's another endurance comp,
Yeah.
and willpower could have done that. The pulp or like the House of Cards, which I called, I'm glad I had that little bit of foreshadow. I knew I could do easy on that. And then for the I would say the one I was a little foggy on was probably the card one because or like going against people because like
Mhm.
it's all randomized. There's a lot
Right.
of RNG involved, but I think I would have done decent in that at least. And
Mhm.
then the blindfold one, I was playing along. And of course, Sarah beats me out because I opened my eyes like a second before she did. And
Oh
what I
wow.
did was I because I count fast in my head. But one thing that doesn't count fast is your pulse if it's steady. So I was counting my pulses and timing it out, which means I can't rush in my head. I have like a clock in my body, my
Right.
thunder. Um, so I do think there is definitely a world where I could have won this game had I not turned on Chatterbox.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to know because like I've been in the exact same situation as you before, Ryan. Like I've played a couple of these games and like yeah, I mean the first time I was able to win luckily. I mean I'll say it was through luck, but and then a couple other games that I've played I either haven't done as well or like I've made it to the end and then lost and if I had not made a couple mistakes I might have won that other one as well. But so I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And then, I'm at this point because I was listening to one of the it's funny, I was listening to Pirate Sarah's and Kevin's podcast,
Mhm.
and there's some information that I think Kevin would have been interested in knowing.
Yeah,
Um, so, jury is coming in. I know where some people were going to vote. Like
yeah,
Amy was not going to vote for Pirate Sarah.
right.
Brandon was going to vote for Pirate Sarah, stuff like that. And then as we're going to the end, like part of me really didn't want to vote for Pirate Sarah for a few reasons. One, and this is like a small thing, but I didn't want to hurt Amy by doing it.
Mhm.
That did weigh over my head a little bit. Also, why would I vote a villain to win if I want to play like a hero?
Right.
Also, it's like also I wanted to work with her the whole game and she didn't really want to. So why would I do that? And then her and Brandon kind of like benefited from the accidental chaos I ensued.
Right.
So it's like, you know, and obviously Kevin had a lot of merit to his game. So when it came to
Right.
that final tribal, I was going to vote for Kevin. But the thing is, here was his downfall. And he even admitted he didn't even fight that hard because it was looking
Right.
like the jury was going to vote. He wasn't fighting that hard. And so I'm like, I'm looking for that thing to lock it in for
Right.
you. But when Sarah was listing off her stuff, because she did play from the bottom, even if she didn't fully admit it the whole time, she did.
Mhm.
She was able to find idols, make things through implicit immunity, and then also the fact that she went through this after being a huge target
Coming
without
in.
a single vote because too many people were afraid of her. Me, I was probably the most afraid of her.
Right.
Like it's all those things where I'm like, I always hate bitter juries. And, obviously I know the people, how they voted and whatnot, they had their reasons. But for
Right.
me, I'm like, I'm not going to deny her the win when she clearly deserves it.
Right.
And Kevin hasn't given me anything, like, except like what I know he's accomplished. But I'm looking for, I didn't get that boost, that like one thing from Kevin that would have made me choose him. But like Sarah was, and I was debating for a while, am I actually going to do this? But I'm like, in my heart of heart, I knew no, this was like the right thing to do. Um, so because like Sarah deserved to win. By the way, I was a big fan of both of them going into this. So
Yes.
like the fact that they were the final two, I
Insane.
was geeking out a little bit. So, I
You
had
were
to vote
too.
for Pirate Sarah because she was the best contestant of that season.
Yeah.
She made it to the end. She won multiple challenges. And despite being on the bottom, she was able to find stuff and she was able to make her way to the end in the most Sarah way possible. So it's like, I can't deny her that victory. So I had to vote for her.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I mean, Kevin admitted that he didn't fight as hard as he could have to win at the end, and Sarah fought very hard at that final tribal to get the win. So, like,
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, it's insane that that final two even happened at all, but like, I'm very happy with Pirate Sarah pulling out her win there.
Same. Same. Like
So,
she and I are still friends. We haven't like talked too much, but I hope to have her on the channel. I'm excited
mhm.
to meet everyone at that big convention in December and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like even though I've retired from doing orgs and whatnot, I'm still going to be a part of the community, even doing organizing one with Joe.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to come on with you and Joe and kind of talk about it more as well. And yeah, this community is great and like I'm grateful you're a part of it. I'm grateful to be a part of it and like it's a good time. So thanks for being on and sharing your thoughts, Ryan.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And once again, thank you for letting me play because I got to live out a childhood dream of mine. Um, and then, the friendships I did make, like I still talk to Rachel and Amy and whatnot. And, like getting to know them better, getting to know Pirate Sarah better. I still need to reach out to some of the other peeps and be like, hey, it's been a while. Like even Michael and I grew closer through this. So like, thank you for letting me play and get to make new friends. And I want to shout you out too. Like I feel like the 5 days beforehand to like strategize and stuff, it is the perfect balance, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that between a mini and full season game.
Right.
I feel like that should be the spot, especially for someone like me who has a busy schedule. Now, granted,
Right.
I'm not doing orgs anymore, but yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, like, I wanted to give everybody a chance to ingratiate themselves, especially even like Will and JJ to try to, because they weren't in this community either. Obviously, JJ was able to do it enough. Unfortunately, Will had too busy of a schedule to be able to do it, but like,
he gave a hell of a he gave a hell of an impression though, and especially his salute as he went
yeah,
out. Like,
yeah, and his
yes,
podcast with him and JJ will fully showed his personality that we missed, unfortunately. Like we could have gotten way more of it. But I love the guy, so um
he's a cool bro.
yeah. Yeah. So glad I could get them both to play again here. But with that, this will conclude this postseason interview with Ryan Neo Wayne, and we will be back for, I believe, our last one in a couple of days with Corey. So be on the lookout for that. And we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.